All right, Rio and Doha might be known as the upset cities going on from here, as we've seen some carnage from the big dogs in these two ATP 500 tournaments. Alcaraz out to Lehecka, Djokovic out in the first round to Berrettini. Mueller takes out Fonseca. Maybe not a huge upset at this point in his career, but still a star goes down. And Kamanciana is the latest one to take out Zverev in Rio. So let's review these upsets for the stars, why they might have faltered earlier on in these tournaments. Kind of a weird part of the year right now, but that, doesn't excuse these crazy kind of results. We're going to take a look at the final in Doha that is set and the semifinals that are set up in Rio. Let's get into it. This is the slice presented by Betway. Let's go. All right, welcome back to the slice, everybody. Thanks for being here. If you're not subscribed, please do. It helps the channel and it helps you become a better tennis fan. And shout out to Betway, our official presenting sponsor of the slice. If you're going to bet the responsible way and make the game maybe a little more fun for yourself, try Betway. And if we have it right here in front of us, we'll just quickly take a look at the odds in Doha, because we've got the finals and we'll just talk about it now. We've got the final set in Doha. We've got Jack Draper versus Andre Rublev. And they've got Jack Draper actually as the slight favorite at -125. So I don't know about that. I think there might be a reason for that because of Rublev maybe seeming to have played the more physical matches leading up to it. But if you look at it here, they both played pretty monstrous semifinals. Draper beating Lehecka, who beat Alcaraz, which we'll get into, and Rublev beating Felix Auger-Aliassime, our guy, our Canadian, in a very tight 3-set match. So both those matches were physical, and it's going to be a battle of attrition in the final to see who has the most left and who can bring the most or the highest level in the final. But so yeah, that's going to be a great final in Doha, and let's start there. So, I mean, let's talk about these matches a little bit before we get to the upsets. Felix Auger-Aliassime versus Andre Rublev. This was a great match. I watched the whole thing live as it happened, and Rublev takes the first set, pretty close set, but then just gets a break as Felix was trying to serve to get to the tiebreaker. But Felix rebounded well, played great, big, heavy tennis, pushing Rublev around a little bit from the baseline, definitely behind his serve. But then, the third set just gets to a tiebreaker, and the level, I will say, the level in this match got crazy good in the third set, specifically at the end of the third set. Andre's serve rating at 311, won 96% of his first serve points in this third set. So that's pretty crazy. Only losing 1 point on first serve. That's got to be a combo of his great serving, great playing behind it, and maybe Felix not returning his best. Both no breaks happened in that third set, but especially in the tiebreak, the level and in those games leading into the tiebreak, the level was just crazy. Those guys were both smashing the ball, moving so well, so athletic. Just really a delightful match to watch. And unfortunately for the Canadians, like myself, Rublev takes the win, but you gotta love him. He's a super nice guy, and yeah, deserved that win at the end. Played a little bit better in the tiebreak to take it. And then yeah, Jack Draper came up big against Lehecka, who had taken out Alcaraz. And I watched the beginning part of Lehecka versus Draper, and to me it looked like Lehecka was the more fit, springy player out there. But sometimes Lehecka can get a very high level, and I find sometimes it's hard for him to keep that through a tournament. So that's a great win for Draper there, the 8 seed coming through the top in what was a pretty stacked Doha draw. But it didn't materialize in having the biggest stars at the end, namely Carlos Alcaraz going down to Yuri Lehecka. If we go back to the quarterfinals, that's what happened. We watched that yesterday, or at least I did, and yeah, Lehecka takes the first set. Alcaraz takes the second set. A lot of bang tennis. Both guys super freak athletes. And then Alcaraz was up a set a break in the third set. And people are wondering, like, how did that happen? He was up, but he's really only up. He's up one break, and he gets broken. He held, and then Lehecka held, and then Alcaraz was trying to hold again, got broken. Now they're back on serve at, I believe, 4-all. And then Lehecka served for 5-4 and held. So he was up 5-4, and then Alcaraz got broken again. So he got broken twice in a row. But the funny one, the weird part about that was at 4-5, Alcaraz serving, he was up 30-15, and he had played a couple good points to get there, 30-15. And then Lehecka just wins 3 points in a row, and the match is over. From down 30-15, and on serve, he wins 3 points. The match is over. That's the margins in 3-set tennis, especially. But yeah, that's like these matches. People are kind of shocked. That's Alcaraz's second loss of the year. But a guy like Yuri Lehecka is a really good player, and if the margins are that thin, you just get caught lacking for 1 or 2 points at the wrong part of the match. A lot of these ATP players can make you pay, and Alcaraz doesn't have the shock value, I would say, to a lot of these other ATP players on a fast hard court that he does on other courts, and that's kind of well established now. Even though he did win in Rotterdam, played great there, wasn't able to get it done versus Lehecka in the quarterfinals. And that's that. If you go back to the round of 32, the first round, Djokovic loses to Berrettini. And Berrettini just played big-time tennis that you saw got him to number 6 in the world before. So he's like 35 in the world now, but he smashed the ball. 13 aces, 85% win on first serve points. Djokovic was at 84. Like from the stats, it doesn't look like Djokovic did that much wrong. Berrettini saved all 3 of the break points he was up against, and he broke Djokovic twice. And yeah, so that's big time tennis from Berrettini. And even if you're a Djokovic fan, you got to love seeing Berrettini get a win, get maybe a little bit of momentum there, even though I believe he might have won one more match after that and then lost. Let's just check that. Yeah, he beat Griekspoor and then lost to Draper, who's in the final. So you can't, in 3 sets. So you can't really blame him. But yeah, Djokovic upset in Doha. Are people worried? I don't think you should be. He has not played really well between the Australian Open and the clay in the last 2 years, but he also hasn't won, a major now since 2023. So it's an interesting time for Djokovic. That's fun. That is, I think, fair to say. But yeah, Djokovic out early in Doha, Alcaraz out to Lehecka, and we got a great final though, Draper versus Rublev. Now let's turn to Rio, and Rio is a crazy tournament. So this is they call it the golden swing. And I saw someone on Twitter today saying, Zverev, you can definitely count on not going back to the golden swing in 2026. I mean, the guy came down to what he said was prepare for the clay, prepare for Roland Garros, because that's the next major, and that's what he wants to focus on. He feels like he can play great there and have a good chance to win a major, but he comes down and loses in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, and in Brazil, in Rio. So he did not have a good time there, and today he loses to Comensana, who is a great clay court player, but a lot of people never would have heard of him. But you watch him play, like you watch the highlights of that match, you're like, this guy looks super comfortable on this South American slippery clay, and he was gaming. Like there's 4-all in the third set, 40-40. He just, like, Zverev has a smash at the net, and he smashed it, and somehow Comensana gets his racket on it and then passes Zverev while he's still at the net. Like, just crazy tennis. Had the crowd going wild and shocks Zverev. So that was just like a couple tournaments and maybe a trip that Zverev's just going to want to forget about. I think he's probably going to Acapulco next, back to the hard court to figure some things out in his game and probably just put that one behind him. But yeah, he loses, and then the golden boy, Joao Fonseca, loses as well, this time to Alexandra Mueller, who has actually made the semifinals and broken into the top 50. This guy also was in the final of the Hong Kong ATP 250. But anyways, I think if you're shocked at Fonseca losing there. I mean, it's not that surprising. You've seen this story, I think, over and over. He's still 18. He's still not that high in the rankings. And he's like, the pressure on him in that match, in the first round match there in Rio, where he lost, is crazy. Like, he's walking a dog. They literally had him walk a dog out there. And yeah, like, his level and his talent is much, or his level can be much higher, but his talent level is much higher than the people he's playing. But these guys like Mueller are ATP pros, and they know how to grind and play. And if they don't have pressure on them compared to a guy like Fonseca, they have an advantage. And so, yeah, it's not that surprising to me to see Fonseca go down. It's his home tournament. It's the pressure's on, and that affects you negatively. That's like a well-known fact in tennis, and it seems to have gotten him there. So if we look at the tournament in Rio, it was almost a total Argentinian semifinal, but Mueller played upset again. So he upset Fonseca, and then he upset Cerundolo. And all the Argentinian fans, would it not have been crazy to have 4 Argentinians in the semifinals of the tournament in Brazil? Ugo Carabelli, the lucky loser, makes the final or the semifinal on the bottom half. He beats another lucky loser, Faria, who, yeah, someone pulled out. It would have been, I can see it, the Italian Musetti. Pulled out with an injury, so lucky loser in there. But Comensana beats Zverev, and then he goes through, and now he'll play Mueller in the semifinals. And Baez, who beat Sheng, he'll play Ugo Carabelli in the semifinals as well. So there you have it. That's an ATP 500. One of those guys, who I think the highest ranked seeded player is Baez at 31, one of those guys will win the ATP 500 and get a serious boost to their rankings and to their year-to-date and probably career earnings. So craziness in Rio, big upsets. What do you guys think? What did you guys think? Did any of those, the Alcaraz losing, Zverev, Djokovic, Fonseca, which one surprised you the most? I think most people would probably say Alcaraz, but these tournaments, you never know. The 500s, the thousands, where it's 3 sets, the guys can go down earlier, and the level and the talent pool is deep on the ATP Tour. So I don't know what else to say. May the best man win in the final in Doha, and may the best men make the final in Rio. Thanks for being here. That's the slice on the situation on the upsets around the world. Acapulco draw, Dubai draw dropping soon on the ATP Tour, so we'll be back to cover those. And until then, we'll see you in the comment section. Thanks.